What's going on, guys? Alec here from Oz Fury Gaming. Today I'm here to have a talk about this Tumbril Nova tank, really get stuck into some details. But before we do all that, I just want to give a quick rundown for those who might not understand what this tank's about. This tank runs at a maximum crew of 3, according to details, and is designed to be a multi-purpose vehicle, being anti-air, anti-personnel and anti-vehicle. It has a lot of armor and is quite large, as we can see in the picture here, but can carry no cargo, and its other drawback is it needs a large vessel to actually move it. Off planets, that is. So having a quick look at the stats here, it has 2 by size 2 guns, which are the anti-personnel weapons, which can be interchanged with equivalent size weapons. The size 4 gun, which is the main armament, is a ballistic gun, which is unique to the vehicle, to be confirmed what it's going to be. And then the missiles as well are universal, so you can change it for any missiles you want. So they come with 12 size 2 missiles standard. Now, stats wise, obviously there's no real rotation or anything like that. Like, it would be interesting to see if they put track traverse in, turret traverse, all that sort of business. But it does come at 20 meters per second speed, which might sound slow, but that's actually 72 kilometers per hour. And that, in my opinion, is really quick for its weight and its size. Now, like I said before too, which we'll cover in the Q&A, the vehicle is really tall, really long, and really wide. Being 16 meters long, it's a very, very big vehicle to take into account. Now, also too, there's only 3 crew in here to give you an idea of how much space is used for the actual tank's hull. 1 gunner and 2, well, driver and a support crewman. Now, when we take a look at the holo view of this tank, I want to point out a couple of features. First of all, the front of the tracks are exposed, which is a good thing, meaning it can traverse ground really well. Also a bad thing, meaning it can get tracked really easily. Other things I want to talk about is on the top here. Notice the ammo box is right at the back of the turret, which is obviously being able to get to. But it's sort of on the angle, which makes it exposed, which we'll see from the rear view. Also too, those 2 guns up on top are really nice. And then also too, we have our missile racks there. So like I said with the ammo box, from the looks of it, it's on the right hand side next to those missile racks where the ammo would be stored, feeding into an automatic loading mechanism which would fire through the main gun. Now, this is all theory crafting too, but they did talk about the countermeasures. So there's 4 shooters on top, so there's 2 aside, so it looks like there's a total of 8 countermeasures. Now from the rear here, which is the weak part of the tank, that door is a weak exposure, and also having those tracks exposed on the back make that weak too. The last thing I want to talk about here is the main gun. Having such a very slanted upper front plate here, I thought we might better get some great gun depression happening and go hull down, but as you can note underneath the gun with the loading mechanism, it will more than likely negate that. But when we look here though, it just depends how they do build the vehicle, but I hope that they make great use of that front angling, so when you go up a hill for example, you can actually get some really good gun depression so you can hide most of the hull, because the hull is really the weak part of this vehicle. So let's get stuck into all this Q&A business. What ships will the Nova fit in? Like I was saying before, it's a really big tank, so you'll need a big ship such as an Idris, as I mentioned here. But I could imagine like a merchantman or something with a really big cargo hold being able to take it, that would take up most of that cargo hold. What size is the main gun? Well, it's a size 4, and it's a ballistic gun, so no rail gun or laser business, straight old school ammunition out the barrel. Why would I use a tank versus ship? Well, it depends on the situation. If you've got heavily fortified anti-aircraft defenses at a base that you're trying to assault, the tank can work really well. Also too, the tank is a more personnel vehicle than a ship, meaning it can hold its own, like I was saying earlier, with having a large variety of weapons. But the downside is though, is the tank can be taken out a lot easier, being a slower target. But the tank can hide behind rocks easier, can do a lot more jobs per se than a ship. Can the Nova fire different ammo types like modern day tanks? Now, if you're unaware, there's like heat rounds, sabot rounds, all other sorts of stuff out there for tanks in modern day. At the moment, they're only going to have 1 type, but we'll hopefully later introduce more. And can the Nova be loaded or dropped from a dropship? Yes, from a height still to be determined, but yet again, you'll need a really big dropship to actually be able to carry this. But the tracks and the hull of the ship are strong enough to take a drop at a good height. Now, like we talked before with the crew positions, there's a driver, support crew, which I imagine would be those anti-personnel guns on top, the 2 size 2 guns, and then the main gunner. Now, I don't know if those 2 guns on top will be able for different position use, like if it'll be on its own little separate turret. And I don't know too if that support crew will be able to use them. I think it would be cool if they could, but it'll be what it will be. I imagine the support crew will be mainly managing power systems and scanners. That's the other question I have too, is what the scanners are going to be on this ship, because they don't really talk about it. What range does the main gun have? Still to be determined. Can't take any cargo, like I said earlier. Now it can do 30 to 50 rounds per minute is the aim, so it can deal at some decent damage. And does the Nova have countermeasures? And like I was saying before, yes, up on top there's those little countermeasure pods. Considering we have grav-lev technology, why isn't the Nova a hover tank? Now this is a grand old question. It's been used in sci-fi a lot as well. It doesn't really make sense to have really heavy vehicles on grav tech, especially ones with size 4 guns such as this, which are putting out huge loads. It really makes sense to have tracks, as well as traversing is a lot easier, and it just keeps the tank as a whole a lot more stronger, and disruption devices can't really knock it out. Can I operate the tank by myself? Yep, we talked about that before. Locks the turret to the front position. Now, does the Nova have a compact mode, or a mode where it can sort of condense itself down? No, it can't. The tank is as condensed as it can be. Really, for the amount of hits it can take, from what they're saying, I think it's actually pretty well sized, even though it is 16 meters long and 7 meters wide and 5 meters tall. Now, like I mentioned before too, the speed of the Nova is quite quick for its size. At 20 meters per second, which is equal to 72 kilometers per hour, it has the ability to really move up and down places, like hills and things, in pretty easily, I'd imagine. But it does take a while to get up to that speed. So I imagine too, slowing down will take a fair bit. Does the Nova have any weak points? The rear, like I was talking about with that door, as well as the tracks, are two major weak points of the vehicle, but that's mainly for traversals and obviously getting into the tank, so it can't be all sunshine and lollipops. Now the vehicle here is on sale for $104.50 USD, including the 10% GST tax for Australia. And here also too, you can upgrade or use store credits for 115 USD. Now that includes the tax too, but when you use store credits, it doesn't actually apply the tax, so don't worry. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video and got a bit out of it. When the part 2 comes out of the Q&A, I'll make to get around to it. Until then though, hope you enjoy Star Citizen, and I hope to catch you around the verse. Toodaloo.